Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Endurance Physio. This is actually a bonus episode because today we are going to be talking about Will did the Austin Xterra. But first, I'm Dr. Sam Rockwater. I'm a sports physical therapist. I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Will Gonzaga. Howdy, Will. How are you?
What's up? I'm doing good, Sam. How you doing, man?
Good, good, good. Um, you did an Xterra. That is a race that I've never done before, but have always wanted to try one. Um, Tell us a little bit about it. What is it? What were the distances? Kind of give us like where was it? Give us a
Yeah,
little
sure.
bit of like a feel for like what it was and where it is.
Yeah, definitely. So Xterra is basically it's an off-road triathlon. So it's going to be an open water swim with a mountain bike ride followed by a trail run. So that's the only difference, I guess, logistically from a traditional triathlon. The distances are a little bit different. So I did what they considered a full distance, and this one, the distances were a 900-meter swim, a 15-mile bike ride, and just under a 5-mile run. They have longer ones, like the one I'm doing this next in May up in Alabama for nationals. That's I think like the longest that they have, and that's a 1,500-meter swim, a 20-mile bike, and a 10K. So almost just like an Olympic on the road. This is the longest distance that they have for Xterra. So back in the day, like in undergrad and college, I raced a ton of triathlon and traditional like road triathlon. And I haven't raced probably a triathlon in 10 years. I think the last time I did one was the last semester of PT school. I did like a super sprint, and I just hadn't really had the itch for it until lately, just mainly to mix it up, do something different in the spring when there's not too much other events going on around here that piqued my interest. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this because I like mountain biking more than road cycling, and I like trail running. So I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So I signed up for this Xterra as a primer for nationals, which are in Alabama about exactly a month from now. And so, yeah, so this was kind of a shakeout race for me. And I would say just from a vibe perspective is you'll hear people say this, like, trail running is more chill than road running in terms of races, and gravel cycling is more chill than road cycling. And this is like the chill cousin to road or traditional triathlon, right? Like it's much more like laid back and a little bit more grassroots, at least this event, right? I think the total participants were like around 180, and that included the full,
That's not
the
many at all.
duathlon, and aqua bike. No, not many at all. No, not many at all. It was pretty small numbers. But
Wow.
dude, people came from all over the place for this race. So it was just outside of Austin. It was about an hour and
That's awesome.
45 from me, and probably yeah. Dude, people were from Colorado. I talked to a guy from Canada. Dude, all over the place. Virginia, like all over the place. People came to do this race. I don't think there's very many Xterra sanction or like Xterra branded races in the
Yeah,
South. So I
branded,
think that
sanctioned ones.
has people coming to it. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah.
It's like a you know what I mean, like the Iron Man brand or whatever. And so people were coming and trying to get World Cup spots in for Italy, right? And so, which I think is where it's at later this year, or World Champion spots, whatever they call them.
Get it, Will.
So people were
Get
coming
it,
down for
Will.
that, and dude, far from it. But we'll get to that later.
Hey, you
But
never
it
know.
was cool.
Never know.
It was a cool event. It was a cool event. I'll say leading into it, I felt I felt good. I felt really good on the run, good on the bike. My swimming hasn't been like the most consistent, but every time I'm in the water, like I feel good. It's only 900 meters, so I really headed into this race with, well, obviously I wanted to do as well as possible, but trying to give myself a little bit of grace. Like, hey, man, you haven't done a triathlon in um, 10 years. So there's going to be a lot of cobwebs to shake off as you go through this. And there certainly were.
I bet. Wait,
But it
where
was
where
cool.
did
It
you
was a
say it
cool vibe.
was?
It was cool.
Where did you say it was? Right outside of Austin?
It's in, yeah, it's right outside of Austin. It's at Pace Bend Park. Pace Bend is maybe it's east of Austin on the Colorado River, and that river kind of leads into Lake Travis, I think, which is in Austin. So maybe it's like 15 miles outside of Austin, so not too far. I was hoping to go up Friday. My original plan was to go up Friday after clinic, and pre-ride the mountain bike course, which is honestly what I was most worried about because I hate riding mountain bike courses blind. I just don't do
Mm.
well with that like at all. And so I was hoping to do that, but like logistically, it just wouldn't have worked because I probably would have gotten there like at 3 p.m. And I was like, man, it's probably not best to do 15 miles like at 3 p.m. the day before a race. So I was like, it's probably just a marginal gain at this point. So I just woke up early and headed up there. Um, yeah, so I guess like I felt I had a really good warm up, and then I got geared up to get into the water, and this is where things got kind of just got derailed almost like right from the beginning. It was a really rough race for me. So I get into the water and I start swimming. Gun goes off, whatever. It's swimming. It's a triangle course, so we're gonna do two 450 meter laps, right? So I'm swimming out to the first buoy, and I'm about halfway out there, and like, man, like it's kind of hard to breathe. Like, what's going on? And I was like, I think you're just probably swimming too fast. It's really hard, as you know, to like judge your pace in the open water swim. At least for me, because I hadn't done it in a while, right? You have no really gauge of where you're at. So I was like, all right, so slow it down a little bit. So I slowed down a little bit, and then I was like, all right, I'm still having a really hard time like breathing. Like I felt like my chest and my neck was like compressed. And so I was like, I think you're just like maybe a little nervous being in the open water. So I push on, get around that first buoy. And I was like, no, dude, like I'm like really having to, it's like a couple strokes and then I'm having to stop and like catch my breath. And so my breathing is just all like
Oh
thrown
no.
off. And I was like, dude, what the hell is happening? Yeah, it was my wetsuit. And so I came around that buoy and dude, I can't catch my breath, man. Like I
Oh
was kind of worried. And so I grab onto I wave the
shoot.
kayak down and I catch my breath on the kayak. And this is before I realized that's my wetsuit. And I'm like, dude, like, I think it was weird because I was like, dude, the only thing that could be causing this is you being nervous. But like, I didn't feel nervous. I was like, dude, this is like not far at all. Like this is the shortest swim ever. And there's a ton of people. So I was like, all right, catch your breath and keep going. So I do that, catch my breath. And then the same thing happens. Like, I'm out of breath almost immediately. And so I'm like, dude, I think it's the wetsuit. So I swim over to another kayak and I ask him to help me undo it. And he just unzips it like halfway. And I felt like immediately better. I was like, oh, wow, like this is fine. But at that point, like I was like near like the backpack of everybody that was in the water. You know what I mean? So that
What
kind of
was
sucked.
it
But
too
the second,
tight? Was the wetsuit too tight?
it was too tight, man. I hadn't. It was my wetsuit from 10 years
Oh,
ago. I weigh about the same. I weigh the same. If anything, I'm
okay.
skinnier up top. But I hadn't. I swam in it for a warm up. I swam in it the week before, but I think that it was just not at race pace, and so like just going a little bit harder and like having a little bit of nerves like made it feel like super tight. I talked to my friend who's a triathlon coach and hear about it, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, like you have to." He called it flooding the wetsuit, which I don't remember doing this before, but have you ever
Mm-hmm.
heard of that? Flooding the
Mm-hmm.
wetsuit,
Yeah.
where he's like, you got to like
Yeah, you
get
gotta let
water
water
in
in first.
before
Yeah,
yeah,
and then it sucks
don't put it
tight to
in
you.
dry. And I put it. That's exactly what I did. So I put it on dry, and it
Mm.
just sucked tight to me.
Dang it,
And
Will.
I don't think it felt tight a little. I didn't know. I just didn't know. You know what I mean? You don't know
Yeah.
what you don't know.
Yeah,
So
that's okay.
that
Yeah.
so this is why we do shakeout. That's why you do shakeout races, right? And so, but needless to say, like I was really like disheartened in the water. Like I was like, man, this totally sucks. Not
Yeah.
that I thought that I could
Oh.
win or whatever, but like it sucks to be like way in the back because of like just something
Mm-hmm.
stupid. And so
Yeah.
getting out of the water, like my transition was fine, I thought, because at this point I was like, all right, dude, you're like so far back, like not really going to sweat. Like if you don't have a blazing fast transition, it was a very long run from the water to T1. Probably, I think I mean, it was at least a quarter mile, maybe more uphill. Like, and so it was a good run up there. The wetsuit, which I asked you about, like, tips for getting the wetsuit off quickly. Because I remember in the past, like it would kind of just get stuck on your ankles when you're ripping it off by yourself. My legs are
Mm-hmm.
always shaved. That was your point, to just make sure your legs are shaved. So I shaved the legs, but I did put some body glide on it. And I don't know, man. Like the least of my worries at this point were my wetsuit coming off quickly. So like I was just totally out of contention for placing
did
for anything. So I was like, I really don't give don't give a damn. Um,
did you put body
so
glide
so
on the entirety of your legs? You
Just
put body
around
glide
like
in
from the
entirety?
knee. Mm-mm.
Knee down?
No,
Okay.
from like my knee to the top of the foot. And
Okay.
I mean, did it help? I don't really know, to be honest with you. I don't really know. It came off
Sure.
fine. Like I said, I think because like maybe because I wasn't in a rush, I think that it comes off faster. You know what I
It's
mean?
just
When you're kind of
smooth.
going like
Yeah.
a million miles and it's just smooth. So, so anyway, my transition was I think fine. Getting onto the bike and everything. I think like it's not that part really didn't feel too foreign for me. Is kind of going through those motions of doing that. And again, I think more than anything, it was just trying to block out what was just like a bad swim, and then like just refocus on the bike. But it sucked. It sucked to get onto the bike and like almost all the bikes be gone. You know what I mean? And that just was like, damn, like that really really sucks. And then the
Yeah.
bike was also really 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 hard. Not from a so it was 15 miles. It was pretty much all single track. 15 miles, I think about 1,100 feet of elevation, which is not terrible for me. Like I'm a good
Mm.
climber, but this was a very,
It's a
very,
little bit up
very
and down though.
rocky course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was up and down, but nothing was like when it really was going up and really going down, it was pretty open, kind of like power line sections. So it wasn't
Okay.
like per se hard. Like I can do that. But it was like basically miles like
Some
3
technical
through
stuff.
12. It was like dude, it was like just one big rock garden. Like it never stopped. I was
Uh,
like, surely, like this is gonna stop being so damn technical. But it never stopped. And so that was,
uh,
I think I just didn't. I definitely had a very very slow bike, and I think some of it was just not being in the right headspace coming off of the swim. You know, like when it's that technical, like you have to be locked in, you have to be focused, you cannot be
mm-hmm.
thinking about everything else, and you can't be having a pity party. And like unfortunately like I just kind of was, and I just was not having a good time. So I got through it though, got through the bike,
Honesty.
didn't crash. It was just, yeah, it just really was, man. Like I was, I'm not even gonna put this out into the world, so I'm not gonna say it because I've got another important race. But yeah, man, it just sucked. Like I think we've all been there at some point or another. And I just wanted to go home like really bad. Like I really just wanted to not finish that race because it just felt kind of stupid at that point. But pushed through, got through it all. The last 2 miles or 3 miles of the course, it opened up to where it was just like big power sections and twisty, but on dirt and like steep gravel climbs, which I'm like, I could do that like all day. So I felt good there. I caught back up to a couple people within that push. And then my transition from bike to run was really smooth. Again, like I wasn't like, I was trying to go with some urgency, but like it was still smooth. You know what I mean? Because there was no reason to like spaz out and like not re-rack your bike properly or not put your shoes on properly. So, and then my
Sure.
run was really great. I was very, very happy with how strong I felt coming off the bike. Especially being like the last 2 or 3 miles of the bike, like I was pushing hard. So I thought that was a good sign of fitness to feel very strong for the 5 miles, on the run. Like I felt like I could cruise or, kind of just keep crushing at that. And I caught more people on the run, which was good. So, yeah, man, I think, just kind of reflecting back on that. Okay, so then I finished. The race is over. I was very glad it was over, and I was ready to go home. I finished last in my age group, and I don't know where overall, but it wasn't like when you look at, I don't know, like I don't even really dwell too much on the results for really even a lot of events. You learn so much from going through these exercises, and while I was really pissed in the moment, that it just went so bad the first two legs, I just kind of remind myself that like, dude, like you're doing this as a learning exercise essentially, because nothing will replicate racing like racing. Like if you want to do well in May, on your A race, you have to have a B and a C race that you're going to just work some kinks out through, and none of these kinks would have been worked out prior. You know what I mean? Um, Unless I was racing, right? I think that it took that type of intensity to do, and the things like not riding the bike course well. I think it would have been better had my mental state been better from the swim and being able to pre-ride it. But like that's just not logistically like something that was going to happen for this event. So it's okay. You know what I mean? You walk away just feeling like, all right, like I learned a lot from it. if anything, like, how to put on the wetsuit properly before a race. Like, that would have totally sucked if that happened at nationals, right? Um, so yeah, so I think, all in all, like, the event as a whole was a really well put on event, and people were super chill and nice and friendly. I would do it again. I would probably try to make more of an effort to go ride the mountain bike course a couple times leading up to it. Maybe not necessarily the day before. So yeah, so that
Yeah.
was it. That was
Yeah,
it.
a little bit of prior to always helps. Some of those races too, though, I've like I'll be doing the Whiskey 50 this weekend in 3 days, and like I'm not going to go and ride the entire
Mhm.
thing all beforehand. I could have potentially a couple weeks leading into it done like 2 different rides. It's like a Saturday, stayed overnight, and then a Sunday and rode, the 2 different chunks of it. Um, but like that's also too like part of the challenge with endurance races is that like you're not going to know all of that stuff. I know when I did the Leadville 100, there's no way I was going to go out to Leadville and ride 100 miles, and figure out what exactly everything looks like, But like you mentioned, you kind of got to take the rolls and punches, as they come, and just kind of adapt essentially. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of racing. It's
Yeah.
also too. I mean, it's your first triathlon in 10 years. Like, cut yourself a little bit of slack there, Will. You know what I mean? Like it's that's a lot of cobwebs, man. You got a lot of rust that you're chipping off there. But I think it's really important though that you mentioned that you did go and like do one before your A race, right? Like, and like that was kind of like the point of it. Yeah, you would have loved to do a little
Yeah,
bit better, but
definitely. One
at
was
least you're able
bad because
to
of what's
to
a
learn some of
technical
those
issue,
things.
like
Like
an
what
equipment issue
what are the
or
like
user
three
error, right?
biggest
Not
things you want to
necessarily from
clean
a
up
lack of swim fitness.
for your
I
race
feel kind
in
of
Alabama?
messed a little bit, and so I think that to just like at least one go do another open water swim with the wetsuit properly put on, and just confidence of saying like, yeah, dude, see, like you can crush the swim as long as like you're putting on your wetsuit properly. So I think that's the biggest thing that I need to clean up. And I think another thing that will be um, that will need a little bit more thought going to the longer distance one in May is getting the nutrition a little bit more thought into nutrition. Not that nutrition, but
Sure.
um, this is going to be a longer event, so it'll probably take an hour longer, and the fueling on the bike is difficult, as you know, with mountain bike races. Like, especially this one was super techy, so I had 60 a high carb electrolyte mix, but I just couldn't really get to it a lot of the race. I don't think that Alabama's course, from watching the videos on YouTube, I don't think that the course looks as techy at all as what this one did. So I think there'll be plenty of opportunity for fueling, but I think that has to be thought through and
Mm-hmm.
calculated out a lot more. But in
Always.
terms of execution on shins, like, I thought they were fine. Um, in fact, I don't even. I might not even need a wetsuit in Alabama because if the temperature's warm enough. But I thought the transitions were fine, and so I was very happy with the run fitness, and I think that the Alabama bike course will suit me better. So definitely the open water swim, nutrition, and I think that I want to hammer out a couple more on my brick workouts, like
Yeah.
come into spend that last 20 minutes at a little bit higher intensity versus like kind of like chill pace coming back into the house. So like a lot of my rides right now, it's about a 20-minute ride to the single track that I'll do the training on, and then a 20-minute ride back in. And so I think just really keeping the foot on the gas on those 20 minutes back in um, to kind of simulate more of that race pace intensity. So just checking that box a couple more times, I think that will put me in good shape for May. And I do want to I having raced just enough events, like yes, like as a competitor, like yeah, like I do get upset, like I do can get very frustrated, just like many of us can, but like it's still like it was still, like I said, like a good. I know I probably sound a little negative talking about what went wrong. Like, I'm thankful that I got to race. I'm thankful that I got to spend the day doing that, because it's a big, it's a big commitment, right? Like, my family has to, kind of
Nice.
be without me for most of that day, and kind of the night before as I'm prepping, and like it is. I still love doing it, right? So I don't ever want to seem like bratty and complaining about little things that don't go right, but because there still was like just a lot of good learning opportunities from it. And I think one thing that I didn't mention earlier, but I think like we've all kind of been through some of this is like having to remind yourself to recalculate your goals on the fly. Is like you go into races with certain like an A goal, like what you want, and then sometimes like immediately you realize that's not going to happen. And so making sure you can like block out whatever is preventing you from accomplishing that A goal and refocusing on what your next priority is. And I think like mentally I could have done a better job of that during that day, is like just have just tried to totally forget about the swim and just focus on the bike. Like just focus on clearing this section. Don't think about anything else. Like don't think about the rest of the day. Don't think about the big scope of everything. And so I think getting back to a triathlon, that was a good reminder, because it's a little bit different because it's 3 events. And so like each one has its own story, and like you kind of can't let them affect each other. Like you kind of have to just execute in one, then execute in the next, and then execute in the next, and put together a whole package that's good. And so that was a good reminder to just get in that mentality of that for the event.
Yeah, I think triathlon is so unique in that sense, is that um, you're gonna have some things go wrong no matter what. In a triathlon, like, I don't think I've ever had a quote unquote perfect race. I don't think anyone,
I think I'm good with capping it.
yeah,
I think
maybe a
I'm good with
sprint
capping it.
triathlon, everything kind of,
My
goes
final
your
thought
way,
is
but
I'm
otherwise
ready
there's always going to
for
be some
more
sort of
redemption
adversity,
in
and,
May. So
how you
if
handle
anything,
it
I'm
and how
more
you learn
hungry
from it,
to
I
do it
think
again.
is key. But sounds like overall
Yeah.
though, like you enjoyed it. You're looking forward to Alabama for sure in a month, which should be a ton of fun. I can't wait to hear about that one. Um, any kind of final thoughts, or are you good with like capping it how you did there? Cool. Awesome. Amen. There you go. Awesome. Well, cool. Thanks everyone for listening.
Oh
A
yeah.
bonus episode here. We're going to push this one
Going
out
for it.
pretty quick here. But anyways, please like, subscribe, and share it with a
Thanks, y'all.
friend, because that's how we grow. That'd be awesome. You can follow Dr. Will on his social media platforms, at Will Gonzava, and then at Almost Park Physio, to talk, or to at least follow along in his journey and some of his races, and hopefully see him on the top step of the podium in Alabama, right, Will? All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. We will see you guys next time. Peace.